make it, but I know it's tough running around the different aspects of New York City during General Assembly Week. But this is our 4th annual United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and Global Human Rights as an assessment of advocacy, analysis of accomplishments, and next actions to guarantee global goals. The focus that we're looking at is, when we began this, there wasn't enough of a connection between sustainable development goals and human rights. It seemed everyone was excited, and we were as well, working on sustainable development goals, but it seems like everyone forgot then that there is a UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples that already exists. There's universal human rights. There are 9 core treaty bodies, 10 if you include the subcommittee on torture, and we thought it was very important not to forget all the important work that had happened over the last 7 decades. So we decided to have an annual meeting here at the General Assembly, and the main idea, especially with this assessment, was looking also at the new mechanism that was created. The voluntary national review was created, and if you compare it to any of the treaty bodies, or if you even compare it to the most recent development of the Universal Periodic Review, it's really short. It's a 25-minute review, and only some of the goals are assessed every year. So we want to use this as an opportunity to coordinate to make sure that we would put pressure on the General Assembly members to make sure they don't forget about human rights, but more importantly, also, if this is a serious goal, and if they're aiming to actually achieve these SDGs, they have to have accountability and a mechanism that's much stronger than a 25-minute review whenever a country decides it wants to come to New York in the summer during the high-level political forum. We're excited also as this is the 4th annual conference, but it's also the first time the high-level political forum had its 2nd session, which of course is this week with the SDG Summit. But if you look at the Climate Action Summit and you look at the Sustainable Development Goal Summit, a lot of excitement, but not a lot of engagement or actual activity. And so, and if you look at what everyone's facing in the world, the Oceans Report just came out with the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. It's even worse than everyone had actually thought. Coral could disappear entirely, and that's at 1.5. If it's anything above 1.5, it's 90%. All the coral in the world is gone. So we really are looking at what's wrong, and what we always brought up and what we always featured and covered in our annual conferences was Indigenous peoples' rights. Because we believe Indigenous peoples actually have the traditional knowledge and wisdom to actually provide a path forward for the planet if the states want to listen. And so while we do focus on SDGs and global human rights, our real core content is always on Indigenous peoples' rights. So what we'll be looking at today and what we'll be focusing on is 3 short different aspects. The first one is looking at the SDGs and looking here in Asia. So we have 2 case studies. We have one case study that's looking at what just happened. Laos was reviewed a year ago, and we have one case study of India, which will happen in 2020. So the idea is also very similar to what they do at the Asia Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development. One country who just went kind of mentors and talks to the next country about what they need to do. It's usually too last minute though. They do that in March, and then the review is actually in July. So what we try to do is cover someone that was covered a year ago, look at lessons, and then provide those lessons to the next country, in this case India, because India will be reviewed in July 2020. So we'll hand it over now to Alliance for Democracy in Laos. They'll be looking at the 17 global goals and the state of those goals in Laos. And of course, a goal I think they care the most about, of course, is SDG 16, looking at peace, justice, human rights institutions. But as we all know, the interconnectedness and interdependence of these goals is absolutely crucial. And if any country is just working in silos on these, they'll fail miserably. And of course, we all know if Indigenous peoples have access to their lands, then many of these goals would all be accomplished. There'd be no poverty, because everyone would have enough food, because everybody would grow it. There'd be no hunger, because that's one thing we definitely always have in Hawaii. No one's ever hungry at a luau or a party or anything else. We always know who's organizing depending on the quantity of the food and the quality. And so if you look at good health and well-being, all these goals are linked up, and it's linked directly to the right of self-determination for Indigenous people. So we'll begin with Laos, and then focus afterwards on the Zofate people in India, in Mizoram or Aizo.
My name is Bounthone Chanthalavong Wiese. I'm president of Alliance for Democracy in Laos. Alliance for Democracy in Laos is an independent NGO based in Germany. We are network with organizations like Laos living in exile, and we work together with the Laos in Laos in underground. Our work is for peaceful change in Laos to democracy and for human rights. Today I will speak about SDG in Laos. First, I would like to speak how can we have SDG in Laos? Laos is now too much problem with human rights violation, too much problem with dependent from Vietnam and China. We have two problems. How can we have SDG in the future? This is my speech today. First, I would like to speak about no poverty in Laos. Laos, we have population around 7 million people. Around 75% of population are poor. And around 25% are very poor, extreme poor. They live around $1 a day. How can we have this problem? Laos have many rivers, many nature. We have everything in our country. How we are poor? This problem, first one is Laos is one communist party system, teacher rights in China, like in Vietnam too. The people don't have the basic of human rights. They don't have right of speech, right of media, the government control of social media. Every people, every person in Laos who write or speak about democracy, about corruption, about something what the Lao government not for the people, something. They are arrested. We have, in this month, one woman, each day speak only in social media about one flood disaster, and the people need help. Only this one. This in 5 days arrested. This is one example for right of speech. I would like to speak about a human rights problem in Laos first, then about how Laos independent from Vietnam and China. Human rights problem in Laos is the next one is the people don't have right to assembly and don't have right to land, to visit their land. And more problem. The next problem in Laos is corruption. Corruption is in every level of administration. Laos now is ranked 130 seconds out of total of 178 countries in the Transparency International Corruption Index for 2018. The international aid for Laos is enough. It's around 65 US dollar a year per person. But the poor people, $1 a day. And our nature, our river, is not for the people, but is for the foreign investor. How can we have problem? No poverty in Laos can't now. We have problem with human rights violation. We have problem with dependence of Vietnam and China. The second one, zero hunting. Zero hunting the same problem. It's the same. You see how we can have this one. This is road for school for young people. How we can have from one province to another province. This is in whole country. Now, 2019. You can see another, this is banana plantation from China, Chinese plantation, in many provinces in ours. Then they take a chemical for rider, for living people. This problem, we can't make something for 0 and the next one, please. A good health and well-being in ours cannot. One, the young people have now problem with drug, methamphetamine. You can see this one. This only one example for many hundred cases about methamphetamine sale in ours. In every province, every city, you can pay some money and you can take methamphetamine. Why? The corrupt officer, every time you can pay and you can have money. Yes. Now, if you trust young people, has problem with methamphetamine. How can we have a good health? How we can have a good school? It's impossible. The next one, please. I can show you how it's school in Laos now. You can see over there. It's now 2019 Laos. It's school. The young people don't have school. You see, another province of South Laos, and the other of North Laos. It's in many provinces now. How can we have this one? This is corruption. This is dependence. This is human rights violation. The next, please. You can see this video.
So the European Union and United States spends $millions every year for better education in Laos, and that's the result.
I would tell you, just a minute, please. The school in Laos we have before 1975, 70% wood in Laos. Now we have around 30%. Since 40 years, we don't have food. It's deforestation. You can see the school. How we can have this school? But another we have many forests in Laos. How? This is our problem with corruption. The next, please. The next problem is women problem in Laos. We have too many human trafficking. Human trafficking, the young girl from Laos to Thailand. Now we have around 900,000 young people who must go to Thailand, to foreign country. Many girls, they are to human trafficking, to prostitutes, and now to China to vetting with some people from China. They are to human trafficking. And the government don't make something against human trafficking already. Why? Corrupt office.
You said it's 1 million girls, or what, 900,000?
900,000
From
young people from
our
Laos.
population, what's the total
For
population?
population 7 million.
7?
7 million, yes.
1 in 7.
Yes.
1 in.
Yes.
It's huge,
Yes.
And that's
Yes.
so it'd be 1 in about
in
3
Thailand,
women.
yes, in Thailand to human trafficking or slave labor.
One in three,
Yes,
human
slave labor, human trafficking, and child trafficking.
And slave labor.
Yes.
Right.
And slave labor, so
Slave.
bad working conditions as well.
1 in 3.
most of them in Thailand, but you also can see them in, I saw them in Malaysia, Singapore, and other Asian countries, mostly illegal.
The next, please. Green water. I would like to speak about green water. In Laos, it's not possible for green water. Why? Banana with chemical from banana plantation factory with chemical. The government don't have action against this chemical. We have many rivers in Laos, but the government built too many dams. Now we have 46 dams in Mekong Basin, and the government planned for 2020 100 project dams in Laos. Many dams now we have dam disaster, 4 disaster. The people don't have water from now, and dam disaster with flood disaster take now many problems with water in Laos. The next, please. This I will tell about this problem. Dam disaster 2018 in south from Laos. Around 6,000 people, we don't have house, don't have school. The international days is not for the people, only for government, for office. That's just a problem for us. You see, too many dams from Mekong only, from China, 8 dams in Chinese land. In Laos now we have project, now 3 dams is already. And in future, 11 dams only for Mekong. This is enough for our country. So every dam blocks water for the people. Yes. So rain time is too much water, and flood disaster, dam disaster. This is our big problem now in Laos. This month. How we can in Laos in the future SDG for the people. We have problem I would like about Laos dependent from Vietnam. Why? Laos has Vietnam War before Khmer's dictatorship. This Vietnam War, first they have with Vietnam military to work together. But later, Vietnam has told for the Lao government, they don't go home. They are in Laos. Around 200,000 Vietnam War military from Vietnam, they are in Laos. They don't go to war. And they make special agreement, like special Lao-Vietnam agreement. This agreement gives Vietnam for everything to be seen in Laos. Laos is independent from Vietnam, politically, military, economy, and country. And now we have economic influence from China. Chinese build mega project in Laos. Example in Chanthalavong economy zone in Laos, many economy zone in Laos, and they build big casino. They have one casino in Golden Drive, around 300,000 Chinese. They are work there, they are live there, they build a house for the Chinese people. This is only example, but they have in another province, now in South Laos. Now we need independence for Laos. We need change Laos to democracy. We need human rights basic for the Lao people. This is my speech today. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a problem. On the paper, Laos is an independent country, but in fact it is
Taking
Vietnamese.
over photo as well.
Yeah, it is a Vietnamese Chinese colony. Economically, mostly in the last years by China. China comes more and more over the border. Before 2005, before the military was pushed in Thailand, Thailand has been a very important economic partner in Laos. But now I think the biggest influence is by China. The second one on military base and on the administrative basis on Vietnam. And so I think we will have a security risk in the future when these two countries, they came more and more into a concurrence. The Lao governments give land concessions to those lands, special economy zones to China, special contracts with Vietnam. Both countries exploit the economy and the natural resources of Laos. This is the next problem in economic growth. When you see on the paper, they have an economic growth from up to 7–8% every year. And people, we ask, why can it happen that Laos is still one of the poorest countries in the world? This economy grows since the mid-1990s. Yeah. On one hand, we have the dependence from Vietnam. Vietnam puts lots of natural resources, illegal logs. For an example, when you came into a furniture shop here in the United States or the European Union, and you will buy wood furniture made in Vietnam, then it is 100% clear. The company, that's from Vietnam, but the wood isn't. The wood is from Laos. 100%. Later I will show you some pictures in the video. You will see we have, I saw this with my own eyes. I made a short film of it. It's really hard. The other thing is Vietnam, China, on the other hand, they have established a lot of special economy zones with casinos and trade companies and so on. But there is no work for the Lao people. When the companies from China come, they bring their workers with them. So there is no job for the Lao people. There is no value for them and no earnings. And the last thing is corruption. Bounthone has told they are on the corruption index on place, I think 138 at the moment. They switched between place 130 and 130 up and down last years. A little bit worse, a little bit better, but not more. Here it is 2017, I read, it was on place 138, so it goes down. The best place was 130, the worst place was 140. After that, Somalia comes, another country with civil wars, other problems. So the corruption eats the last things of the economy, earnings. we have some impressive industry, incubation, infrastructure. When we hear the voice of the Lao government, they told us, oh yes, we have built so many kilometers and now we have 13,000 kilometers of road. Yeah, but in fact, only 1,700 are paved. And yeah, this is how to come with it. I don't have to translate it. You can understand it. The man is angry. Last connection between the main city, Vientiane, and another big city, Luapara.
รถขึ้นบ่ได้รถไปบ่ได้แล้วนี่อีกรถไปเสียงขึ้นบ่ได้รถโดยสารไอ้นั่น
Like people.
ตายห้า
This is the main street. In the normal car you see here, it is absolutely impossible. All this poor young man, he has problems with his motorbike.
ตายแล้วซื้อเหล้าพี่ซื้อเหล้าเอ้ยซื้อเหล้าแต่ดิพี่ไปไปเอาพ้นเลยพี่น้องบ้านเมืองเลย
Now he is angry
ต้องเจอทำทุก
because
วันน่ะดิ
it's
เห็นอันนี้
impossible for him to move forward.
บ้านเมืองเป็นเก็บตามร้านคือว่า
Videos like that I receive every day. People say to me, what is with your money? I've heard European Union, United States, they spend so much money for road construction, for disaster and whatever. And here,
จับมา
it is not possible for me to come to work.
มาบ้าน
New. And the next thing is reduce inequalities. One thing we saw that is the dam disasters. The missing corruption compensation. Yeah. And the next thing, how foreign companies exploit the country. We can see here the problem is it is like racial discrimination in their own land. It is not normally racial discrimination is when foreign people came into your land and it has been pushed by the people who are still living there. In that case, it is absolutely different. The government depends from Vietnam. Vietnamese people came in and the Lao people are not the masters in their own country. These foreign companies, foreign people makes very big projects like the dam projects, special economy zones, and therefore they need space. And now we came to the case of the land grabs in Laos. And some people, just before the last dam disaster starts, has sent us a video. Their land has been taken by a foreign company. I hope you can see the subtitles. People want us.
นึงที่เป็นว่าอันนี้การทำงานนี้เนื้อที่ดิ
They
น
will
ทำ
build
การ
a band down here.
ทำการ
It's you are broadcast also on YouTube. And we will lost our land. But when they will build a dam, many disasters will come. Because on this place, when the dam will come, our land will be destroyed. And where's our compensation on the other hand? Where's our compensation? They don't give us official compensation. We have lost our land. They give us new land, but it is not possible to make any plantations on this land, or farming, or whatever. We can't live on this land. And now they give us only one sack of rice for 1 month for 5 people, and not longer than 2 years. Therefore, we can survive with this small compensation. These people has made a complaint to the parliament, to the court, they have been ignored. All parts absolutely ignored, and with this video they cry for land to us. Now they have lost their land, the dam has been built, and what's happened then? The dam was broken, and we have 4 flood disasters in 2 years, 4 flood disasters. After this has happened. That's a result. And the Lao government ignores everything. The problems, the complaints, the recommendations of the Mekong River Commission. Yeah, the Mekong River Commission. The sitting in the Mekong River Commission, there is Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, Myanmar, China, and environment organizations like Robin Hood, World Wildlife Fund, WWF, and Language Pearl Foundation. Now we have one disaster after another. The area who's destroyed of the rainforest, it's the same area than today in the burning Amazonas region in Brazil. It's very similar. Okay, this numbers speaks for themselves. This is only statistics. Consumption, the problem, this is what I told you, is corruption. We have no independent institutions. We have no public control of everything. So where money will go in our EDR and where money is earned, nobody can control it. No, there isn't anything. Climate action. Laos since until 2005, Laos has been a CO2 consumer. It was one of the countries with biggest rainforest in the world. Since 2005 changed. Now it is a CO2 producer. Yeah. The first time in the last years, it never has taken place that we have a smog alert in Laos cities. And here, in this picture, you can see here, this is a smog in a village in northern Laos. It's only a small village with not more than 30 or 40,000 people. It's a small village and they have smog. Really, and the main reason of this is the illegal logs by Vietnamese companies. I told you I will show you videos. This is one of the videos people have sent to me. The guy on the motorbike has filmed trucks with companies from Vietnam. They have done the illegal logs in Laos, one after another, endless road. Huge number. Secretly. Yeah. It is very, very dangerous in Laos to call themselves. We have spoken about sanitary. Why do we have sanitary problems and water problems in Laos? A part of the land conditions has given to chemical industries from foreign countries and mining companies. These mining companies, they have a big output of trash water. The trash water is unclear in the normal water. People send us pictures from killed fish, killed animals, killed plantations everywhere in the country. So the environment of Laos goes down, down, down. But it will still go on, I think, about more than 10 years. We don't have nature. former rich country. Sandwich. The dendrobats. The fish stocks. They can't travel through the rivers. You must know the Mekong River, that is the most problem. Yeah, the Mekong River, it's a big river like the River Rhine in Europe. Yeah. And now it becomes more and more difficult to have some fishing on the Mekong River and to drive with a boat on the river. In March this year, normally the river has a high tide. But this year it was so low that it was absolutely impossible to go by boat or by a ship through the river. You can walk with your feet through the river. It was really dry. And 1 month later, the next flood disaster came. It's only from one extreme to another extreme. There's no normal tide on the Mekong. And this is the biggest problem. Peace, justice, and strong institutions. We don't have independent institutions. We don't have the freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of the press. We don't have any freedom in the house. This woman here on the left side is the latest case. She makes some soft critics on the, really soft critics on the government. After the last flood disaster, she has lost her own home. And she organized some help for the people. And after she has organized this help for the people, she makes some soft critics. It was only, maybe your disaster help can be a little bit faster for the people. That was all. And after that, she got arrested. That was too much for the government. It was too much critics. Yeah. The 3 young people has been here in the middle picture, migrant worker in Thailand. And during their time in Thailand, they have given a petition to the Lao embassy in Bangkok. Yeah, please, please stop the corruption in our home country. We have spent too much money to the officials when we have to renew our paper, for example, or when we want to go in. It has been not illegally in Thailand. It was legal in Thailand. And after they have to come back to Laos to renew their papers, they have been imprisoned. So it was too much criticized. Here on the right side, okay, this is a very well-known case. It's a kidnapping of Zoram Thar, and very bad for the Lao police. It was filmed by a CCTV. And the wife of Zoram Thar has a video of the CCTV. We know that he is kidnapped. The Lao government neglects since 2012. There's to say, maybe he is suspicious, he's criminal. He has some connections with the mafia, but we know that is not true. Zoram Thar was a very well-known human rights defender. He has made development projects for the people, by the people. How can people help themselves? This was part of his projects and more. And he also has done some soft critics. He says, support by the government can be a little bit more. That was all. That was enough. Now, we don't know about his whereabouts, what is going on. Okay, and this year of the statistic freedom of the press, it is one of the last places. Now, that's the result. And the background on this is absolute independence. There is a special treaty between Vietnam and Laos. It's made in 1977, a special treaty between Laos and Vietnam for 25 years, and after that, automatically renewed for 10 years more. And this treaty allows Vietnam to have control over the country on every level. Now we have the very interesting thing on school that the first foreign language in Laos is not English, it's not French, it's not Spanish, no, it is Vietnamese. People, pupils, who learns the Vietnamese language in the school are preferred for studying later. Very interesting. But what is the value of the study when you speak Vietnamese? Sorry. I think it is more important to learn English or French as a foreign language, or Spanish maybe, or not. Many people in the world speak Spanish, me too, a little bit. That's much better than the other ones. And yeah, on this, okay, this pictures show the ceremonies between Laos and Vietnam, and more and more controls going on. Officials from Vietnam are working in the Lao offices. Yeah. We know these people, we can see these people with the Vietnamese names, with the Vietnamese background, from the leadership to the small office, from the police to the military bases. Everywhere you can find Vietnamese people. It's 100% controlled by them. So Lao people, but they recognize it and they see, oh, there went something wrong. They're really afraid that they will disappear, like someone simple or other human rights defender. In the case of Sombat Sampon later on, some policeman has made a mistake, because there was a mistake in the eyes of the ruling party that they have shown Sombat's wife the video. And these policemen, we don't know, they are also disappeared. It's a really hard story. All these policemen disappeared or died under really, really unclear circumstances. Okay, that's
All right, thank you. So, as we can see, that's a slightly different than the 25-minute version that Laos showed of come to Laos and have a wonderful time. What I think is really most important as well is also brought up at there was the People's Summit that took place on Wednesday last week. It was looking at climate, rights, and human survival. And recently, a special rapporteur on extreme poverty and human rights, Philip Alston, had visited there. He went to Laos and visited there, but he also wrote a report on climate change. It got a lot of publicity because he really framed it as climate apartheid. That in this world now, the elite believe that they can survive and still emit as much carbon as they want to because of their wealth. And the truth is that indigenous peoples, people on the front lines, in least developed countries and small and developing states, are really impacted the most from climate change. And he pointed out that he had hoped, he makes a really good point, he said poverty is a political decision. It's the decisions made by the governments that perpetuate poverty and even impoverish their people worse. And so the decisions, of course, that are illustrated by the examples from 1 through 17 show that the Lao government is making bad decisions that only make it worse. And he made a point that he said, well, the good news is since I gave my report last summer, Laos finally took action on climate change. The problem is they arrested the one woman who actually was telling them what to do about the dams bursting and also complaining and pointing out what should be done next to combat climate crisis inside Laos. So that's how he summarized it last week in his opening statements at NYU. We now move to the country that will be reviewed next year. Next year, India will have its voluntary national review. It'll be the second time that it does that. But what didn't happen last time enough was civil society and the voice of indigenous peoples to come forward to be able to say, this are our priorities and this is what we care about. So now, fortunate to have a representative from the Zaichhawna people, and you'll be able to share with us a little bit about what the issues are that they feel are most important on sustainable development, as well as human rights, and cover the importance of self-determination. So, over to you.
Hello, everybody. Greetings, and this is the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, and Global Human Rights, an assessment of advocacy, analysis of accomplishment, and next action to guarantee global goals. Again, I really thank you for inviting me to speak this time, and let me introduce myself first. And my name is maybe quite difficult to pronounce, Zaichhawna Hlando, and they just call me Zaya. That is easy. So, yeah, I'm so privileged to speak this time and to attend UN meetings in different places, and particularly these SDGs. And I really enjoy, and the people, the experts, and spoke very well. And it's a very new experience for me to come to New York to attend this meeting. I can see very clearly that where the world is heading, and to achieve the goals that SDG is setting. But unfortunately or fortunately, I would say that we are not maybe as yet included in this movement. So what we are hoping is that we will be included in this movement, SDGs. That is what we are hoping for. And I work in I lived in the United States for 3 years, and then I moved to United Kingdom for 10 years. And I was working as a missionary and pastor and lecturers. But I received a calling, and divine calling. And maybe as Mahatma Gandhi received a calling while he was in South Africa, to go back to India, where he's in his native land, to help his people. And I was working in the United Kingdom, and then God called me and to go back to my native land, to rebuild the broken society and the world. That is the reason why I went back to my native land in 2016. So, and then I left my family back home in United Kingdom. I told them that if you're willing, you can come as well. But when you receive a calling, and then I left United Kingdom, and then came home to Mizoram. And then I wrote a book, which I called, the title is Go Back to Your Native Land, to Rebuild the Nation. And so, and then I wrote another book, and last month Joshua also came over during the time of releasing that book. And the book is all about, we are no other than the Zofate. So it's all about identity. And as I'm speaking today, I'm very happy to see the SDGs goals, 17 goals, but I will focus only just a few of them, which I think is relevant to us. Number one is no poverty.
Just repeat the name of the tribe or people's group that you're...
Zofate.
Zofate.
Yes.
Thank you.
Number one, no poverty, and number two is no hunger. I would proudly say that used to be who we were in the past. From generation after generation, our ancestors used to say a word, if we live, and we live together as one people. If we die, if we suffer together. That is the community where I grew up. But very sadly, I would say, that is no longer the case. Our culture is assimilated because we don't live together as people. And the British government colonized us in 1871. And then for many years, and then after that, India got his independence from Great Britain. And we thought that maybe we'll survive as a people as we were, but that is not the case. Very sadly, that India colonized us again. And that is not even following the international law. That is why God called me to go back to my place where I am. We are, all the Zofate live in India and Bangladesh and Myanmar. The population could be now, I don't know exact number, but I would estimate like nearly 4 million. But Mizoram, where we live now, as one of the states in Mizoram, and we are around 1.3 million people. We're all Christians. It's quite amazing that all the Zophate, wherever they are the follower of Christ. So now we see that here, as I said, that I'm not focusing all the SDGs points, but which is relevant is number 16, peace and justice and strong institutions. So, in order for us to have peace and justice, we need a strong institution. That's what we're dreaming, that's what we are looking forward. And now I'm leading a political movement which I call divine politics. Because we are talking about let the kingdom of God comes here on earth. I see the world is facing so many problems. Just we have heard about your country, and the problems continue and becoming larger and larger. All we need is divine intervention in our life. We human beings try a lot to make peace, to bring peace, justice, but we can't. But I know for sure, God, Jesus Christ came on earth. He is the Prince of Peace. He sacrificed His life for the peace and for the justice. And so that's what we are looking forward to do that. Because these SDGs are trying to bring peace and justice, building a strong institution. That's what we are looking for. And number 17 said partnership for the goals. If we do have a partnership, if the world has a partnership with us, with Zophate, the people who are fasting and praying, seeking identity many, many years. Friends, today I'd like to read out what I have written here. Appeals for Zophate national identity. Instead of maybe saying, I just want to read out. A representative from Mizoram, Zophate, have participated of sessions on the Working Group on Indigenous People held at Geneva and the UN Permanent Forum on Indigenous People held in New York multiple times, submitting statements relating to the issue of hidden colonialism under which we are trapped. Repeated appeals have been made to the UN expert bodies, the expert mechanism on the rights of indigenous people, Human Rights Council, Working Group on mercenaries, and to the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Geneva for implementation of the 100th UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, 2007, relating the Articles 3, 26, 36, 45, and 46, sub number 2 and sub number 3. Yet, the problem is no significant action has been taken to implement the following appeals. We wrote a letter to the Prime Minister of India. We went to Delhi and give a copy to the UN Permanent Representative countries, USA, United Kingdom, China, and Russia, and France. We went there and submit and visit the embassy, but we have received no response. And so if we would like to work together as UN, and my friends, one of my colleagues, is the leader of called Zoram Unification Organization. He has been attending UN meetings for 20 years. But where do we stand? Where is the action? We are so desperate for us to identify who we are. Now, as I said, we live in different places. We are divided by the countries. Like some people live in Bangladesh, some people live in Myanmar, some people live in India, the state of Mizoram, and Nagaland, Manipur, and Assam in different places. We are looking forward to see the responsible person at the UN to bring peace, justice to us. So what we appeal today is, I'd like to read out what I have written and ask SDG goals is peace and justice and strong institution and partnership for the goals. So there are 3 points that I'd like to read out. We make the following appeals for Zoram. We are the same people, live in different parts of the world. Implementation of the Declaration on the Granting of Independence to Colonial Countries and People, the General Assembly Resolution 1514 for the Zoram. And number 2 is in implementation of UNDRIP for the Zoram in relation to indigenous people, right to self-determination, to autonomy and protection of rights under Article 5 and Article 26, right to land and territory. Mizoram State Assembly, this year, March 15, they passed a resolution and saying that let this government, the present government of the state government, push as much as possible to the Indian government so that we will attain this UNDRIP for the Zoram. But I don't know what action is taken by the government of India or the government of my people, my country, Mizoram. And the third one is protection of Article 18 under the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. This is my prayer. And as you can see that I'm wearing this is very significant clothes. Our ancestors, when they are going to do fighting for their own place or justice or peace, they used to wear this. And this signifies that you are not turning back until you reach the destiny. So our destiny, our calling and destiny is we would like to survive as who we are. Our identity must be recognized by the UN so that we would be the light to the world, light to the nation, and house of prayer for all nations. I just want to tell you that our people are so committed, strong community-run society. We like to live for India and the rest of the world. To bless them, we need to be survived as who we are. And so, if you go to Mizoram, my country, you'll see prayer mountains everywhere. People are praying for the world, for the peace, and for the justice. And not only that, people are willing to give their income, 10%, maybe 60 to 70% of the people are giving. We're not seeking, like not asking finance or anything like that at this point of time. As we can survive as who we are, as the UN has a rule, then we believe strongly that we can be a blessing for the world. Even though we are a very small community, but we can do it as we work together. I am so grateful and thankful, and God bless you.
So that's a summary of the SDGs in Asia that we're looking at 2 case studies of Laos and India. And we'll open for questions, if everybody has questions, or we can also move into our next panel looking at sustainable development goals in the Pacific. It's very important right now. If you look at the current UN General Assembly and the Climate Action Summit, you can really see the voice of the Pacific stepping up, because everyone is aware that with the climate summit, the most vulnerable people are people in Oceania, the small island developing states, and they're being impacted already. In fact, as we're meeting now, Vanuatu is actually looking at bringing a case to the International Court of Justice for their climate diplomacy task force and to look to get an advisory opinion from the ICJ to look at what can be done related to the impacts of climate. Also, just yesterday, the Intergovernmental on Climate Change releasing the Oceans Report. So the Pacific, of course, is a very vulnerable region, but also very resilient. And so we can shift then, if we want to Sustainable Development Goals, looking at the Pacific, and we can invite up our guests from West Papua, if they'd like to come, and we'll change. That sounds good. And the other aspect that we're aiming to accomplish, if it does work with the media, I've got it all set up, is Fiji. Fiji, they're also organizing very much around their upcoming Universal Periodic Review. And Fiji is also committed to do another voluntary national review next year. And the people in Fiji right now are looking at foreshore mining. Their black sands are being taken, but in this case, very similar to Laos, a Chinese corporation. And they're organizing to try to make sure that their land, their fisher folks, that their practice are able to continue. But they have some huge challenges there. And then the other is looking also at land in Hawaii, on Mauna Kea. There's a proposed telescope that's 16 stories high, that the people, of course, feel that they have not been really consulted. In fact, they definitely are exerting their right to free, prior, and informed consent of the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. And it's a little earlier in Hawaii, and they said they would call in, so we'll at least begin with West Papua, though. And I'd like to welcome our two guests from West Papua up here to be able to speak. Three. And we will coordinate from there. And still, hopefully, two things, of course, I think it's important to note is in the last couple of years, West Papua very well organized, doing probably one of the biggest petitions ever in the face of a lot of danger, going around talking village to village to get everyone to put their name and to sign that they want their right of self-determination. Yeah, so I mean, to get that document and then actually did submit it to the Secretary General, I think that was probably one of the best examples of people coming together and organizing. And then I'll just conclude also with the 20th anniversary of Timor-Leste's referendum that just took place on August 30th. So that was also a significant learning point for the international community, but also for indigenous peoples around the world working for self-determination. And Jose Ramos Horta used to be in similar situations, giving talks like this for 25 years until he was able to secure, and now Timor-Leste is one of the member states of the UN. So I think that's the spirit of why we come together at these meetings at the General Assembly, is to speak truth to power and for the people to talk about what they care about. And in the sake of time, just we won't talk that long about Fiji as well as Hawaii. I'll just do a 1-minute summary of each. For the Fiji case, it's near the Ba River, and the people have been always able to fish and provide food for themselves. Since the Chinese started to foreshore mine just 1 month ago, it went from being able to catch enough food to provide for the entire week to now, instead of $400, it's now down to $100. So they've already seen a dramatic impact with, as they're doing the mining, it's going onto the coral reef and just destroying all the life and their livelihoods as well. The other side to that as well is that there was no permit to do that. It was supposed to be just exploration permit, that they told the people it was just to explore, and if there were any other steps they would let them know. But as they went out fishing, they would see, and the community is very concerned, so they're doing their best to raise awareness in Fiji, but in the global community as well. They are pleased that the Fiji president said there's a 10-year moratorium on deep seabed mining, but they're very concerned about what's happening in their community. And then just to switch to Hawaii, Hawaii has probably gotten most of the world's attention because The Rock was there, as well as Jason Momoa, Aquaman. So once those two showed up, then I think even Leonardo DiCaprio sent stuff out on his accounts. So there's a lot of awareness now, but the good news is they're trying to stop the development on the mountain, on the Mauna, but it's really building a nation. So they have a university up there on the mountain now. They have, when I was on Maui just last week, they're having a Maui Medic fundraiser for all the hospital and health clinic they set up there for everybody. So in a way, they're building the nation of Hawaii while also preventing that. They're also very concerned about a potential sweep because people have been living up there on the mountain, but it's quite militarized with police as well as National Guard. So the situation of human rights, of sustainable development, we think are all very important, and we're glad that there were so many summits taking place this year. Tomorrow will be the Samoa Pathway Summit, so that'll be looking at the Pacific, and we will be participating in that aspect. Check just one last time, and we'll just honor the time, but thank everyone for coming again, and also thank CUNY and the Graduate Center for helping us to obtain this space. We know it's very difficult to find rooms and to have side events during the General Assembly. I just was at one at the New York Bar Association, then another one at the Roosevelt Hotel, and then there's another one at NYU, and another one all the way that are a lot further away over at Fordham. So very difficult, but we do see this as really the World Cup of global politics, and everyone's here trying to make sure that human rights are realized for all. Next year, of course, is the 75th anniversary of the UN, but many people, of course, feel the UN Charter has not been realized for them, and we'll still keep working until everyone has their freedom and fundamental human rights. So thank you, everyone, for coming today, and we look forward to next annual one, but hopefully we'll be able to share about progress and things that will change, because definitely as we're here, not only is the Amazon burning, but definitely it's a dire situation in West Papua as well, in just the most recent days. So thank you very much.